Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, brother, for your spicy introduction of myself. Good evening to you in Herat and all of the participants with you. Good evening to our friends in India, and good morning to the co-organizers in United States. Dr. Hussain Haqqani, and also our friends from the IDSA, Dr. Chinoy. I'm very happy to be a speaker this year. Unfortunately, I could not make it to a very significant and important conference in the past few years. I can't believe it that I'm speaking at the 9th round of Herat Security Conference. Dr. Muradian, you remember, I was invited to the first round when it was launched, and I think it will be very appropriate to remember and acknowledge the role of our mutual great friend, Dr. Espanta, who I used to call the godfather of the Herat Security Conference. Apologize if I use Mario Pozzo's word to explain his role with the Afghan Institute of Strategic Studies. You are lucky to be in Herat, but I am always puzzled as why the timing for the Herat Security Dialogue is either October or November. Those are not very pleasant months climate-wise in Afghanistan. As I remember in the previous conferences, the of your organization, the Afghan Institute of Strategic Studies, would always be a few lines from Rumi. There we have a commonality. So I would like to also start by reading a few lines from him, who I call the universal son of Afghanistan. In this land, in this pure farm, let us sow nothing but seeds of love and compassion. Darin khak, darin mazar. Well, fast forwarding the time and coming to today's Afghanistan, leaving the era of Maulana behind us, it is 2020, a turbulent year, a very violent year, a very ambiguous year, full of unpredictabilities. So I would like to focus on how we managed the year 2020 and how we are seeing the future and prospects of peace. First of all, prior to February 29th, Kabul Declaration and signing of the US-Taliban agreement in Doha, we had a chance to meet the US administration high officials, including Secretary Pompeo, Secretary Esper, and also NATO Secretary General in Munich, where we articulated, we profiled a number of risks associated with the unconventional style of negotiations that the United States had started with the Taliban. And those risks were the following. It's a tragedy that all of those risks we had predicted have come true. We predicted that the Taliban will use the paper to claim international legitimacy and recognition. They will not use this paper as a basis of compromise, settlement, and peace first. That's what they are doing. We predicted that they won't socialize the narrative of peace in their ranks and files. Today, we are seeing none of the Taliban commanders inside Afghanistan are aware of the false commitment of their negotiating team in Doha to a peace process. What they say we were told that after the agreement with the United States, the fighting has to intensify and cities must be taken by force. Between you and total conquest is what you do today, tomorrow, to make it happen soon. So peace has not been socialized by the Taliban. It is a deliberate strategy. It's not a coincidence. And we had predicted this back in Munich, in the sidelines of Munich Security Conference, to our allies from the United States and NATO. 3, we did say that the Taliban will deliberately misinterpret direct talks with the United States, and they will equate it as US abandoning Afghanistan. That's exactly what's happening now. They say to our negotiating team, quote unquote, that there are 2 superpowers. One is United States, and the other one is Taliban, the Quetta Shura. That level of inflation, that level of unnecessary elevation that they have falsely gained poses a direct challenge to the legitimacy of the peace process, and it poses a great risk and challenge. 4, we had predicted that they won't agree to ceasefire as they fear meltdown and they fear disintegration. Today we are seeing that they use violence as their skin, and they are using violence as a leverage to gain more concessions in the talks, and they are yet to start a meaningful dialogue with their main interlocutors, which is the delegation of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. In the meantime, which is again number 5, we did predict that at the tactical and operational level, they will make alliances with the Daesh. You are aware of these sensational attacks, coward, heinous attacks against civilian targets, against the private learning center in west of Kabul, against the University of Kabul, and against the civilians. The so-called Daesh claims responsibility, but the operatives who actually plan these attacks, or even the suicide attackers who conduct these attacks, are members of the Taliban. Now, this means that the Daesh and the Taliban have started a barter trade. They exchange suicide bombers, material, and explosives and operatives to each other as per need. But when the attack is against a military target, the Taliban claim it. When it becomes too sensational, although launched from the same operational platform, they sell the victory to Daesh and they claim responsibility. So we are seeing a very clear alliance at the tactical and operational level between IS, Khorasan, and the Taliban. 6th, we had brought to the attention of our international allies that the deal does not have any hint about the Taliban sanctuaries. Let's not forget that the Taliban leadership is called Quetta Shura, and it is because their headquarters is located in Quetta. We had also said that if under the current circumstances the deal is being signed, it will also be, that's my point number 7, a very clear, very clear violation of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1373. That is the foundation for intervention of UN-backed NATO intervention in Afghanistan. 7, we had predicted that the gains and the values will be shaken at core, and an environment of second guessing will grip both Afghanistan and the region. And that is what is happening. Nobody is very sure as to what is the valid and foundational interpretation of the Kabul Declaration of 29 February or the Doha Agreement between the United States and the Taliban. Number 8, this is what we had said then, and we are saying, and I am saying today, that it's not about Afghanistan only. It's not about Afghanistan alone. If this goes wrong, this will jeopardize the role of the Western civilization in today's world. And it will be a very dangerous decision to allow a fanatic group with massive history of involvement in international and regional terrorism to gain unprecedented concessions from not only the mightiest military and economic powers of the world, but also undermine the global order and ignore and not recognize the resolutions of the United Nations. By the way, we also, that's the last risk I had profiled in addition to what I just mentioned. I said it will be extremely important for us to make sure that we read from the same page and the Taliban are convinced to socialize a narrative of settlement and they not insist on narrative of conquest based on their interpretation or misinterpretation of the religion. Today that is happening. And if this is not corrected, it will give a boost to all fanatic groups who are pursuing global jihadism and whose only agenda is unleashing violence to set the agenda and gain political concessions. So those were some of the risks we have profiled, and those risks are coming, unfortunately, through at a very high expense and high cost to the Afghan civilians, to the Afghan civil society organizations, to the Afghan key and crucial infrastructure. Now, the part B of my presentation to you is we did not recognize the Doha Agreement. We did not use the word recognize. We did not use the word welcome. We did not use the word acknowledge. We just said we take note of the Doha Agreement because we knew if we used any stronger word, then they would impose upon us literal implementation of each word and each line. So we are not a signatory to the Doha Agreement and we are not recognizing it. We have only taken note of it. And based on that taking notice of it, we have agreed to go and start direct negotiations. But we were asked by the international community and we were asked by our foundational ally, United States, for the sake of peace, release 5,000 Taliban. We released over 5,000 Taliban, amongst them 60 high-profile drug smugglers, amongst them the mastermind of the German embassy bombing, amongst them the killer of the Australian nationals, amongst them the killer of the French citizens, amongst them the kidnappers of the Indian nationals, amongst them some of the worst criminals who had committed crimes against the humanity. But we did take this risk to show our determination for a peaceful end to this situation and reaching a political settlement. The Constitution of Afghanistan does not and did not allow the president to do this. So he had to go to the people of Afghanistan, and the people of Afghanistan expressed themselves in a lawyer jirga, and they gave moral authority and moral mandate to the president for the sake of peace, for the sake of reaching a political settlement. Drink this bitter juice and release these prisoners. The president did. It was not a sweet decision. It was not a popular decision. It's a decision that's still haunting us, because in return, we have received nothing. We have not received even a day of peace, contrary to the promise that the Taliban had made to the United States negotiating team in Doha. Now, where are we now? People want answers. People want clarity. And to be honest, we don't have answers. We are not clear. Violence is high. Civilians get massacred. The heart of Afghanistan's enlightenment, Kabul University, was attacked. And as I said earlier, we cannot distinguish between ISIS operatives, Taliban operatives. When these operations happen at the tactical level, they have become totally intermingled. Next point. What is next? What is next from our point of view is very simple. We want ceasefire immediately, tomorrow, today. This is the desire of all Afghans, and we want to bow to the desire of the Afghan people. We want to respect the desire of our people. They want ceasefire, and we want it immediately, today, tomorrow, the soonest possible. We want the negotiations to go forward. We want the deadlock. We want the stalemate to be broken. We want a breakthrough in the talks. But let us be aware that the stalemate in Doha, the stalemate is a product of the Taliban wrong interpretation of their agreement with the United States. They want to step over United Nations Security Council resolutions. They want to step over the entire legitimacy of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. They want to step on all the values, and they insist strictly that their deal with the United States be the foundation and basis of the settlement. And the deal between them and the United States, which we do not recognize, and in which United States clearly says they don't recognize the Taliban Emirate, they see them as a group, is a Trojan horse. It is a veiled way of, it's a creepy way of coming to domination and power. So the Taliban interpretation of that deal has taken the whole negotiating process as a hostage, and we are not making any progress. We therefore call on our allies, and we call on those who have leverage over the Taliban to use that leverage and put pressure on them to agree to ceasefire. Well, if the Taliban have popularity, they shouldn't fear elections, and they shouldn't fear integration into the society. They shouldn't also doubt our sincerity either. Taliban believe if they cease violence and if they cease ceasefire, we will not take them seriously. That is a completely wrong and baseless assumption. We would like to assure them that even without violence, we will become more serious, we will become more sincere, the environment will have more legitimacy for peace talks, we will be surrounded by confidence, we will not be surrounded by coffins like today. So we call on the Taliban to give peace and negotiations a chance. The next point, what if they insist on violence? Let me be very clear, if they insist on violence, they will even lose what they have today. Afghanistan is a multi-ethnic country, it's a diverse country. Diversity of our society is our strength. The Taliban are facing popular uprisings in eastern Afghanistan and greater Jalalabad. They are facing uprising in greater Paktia region. southeastern Afghanistan, and they are facing popular uprising in once upon a time their home base, Kandahar region. So they are not the Taliban of the 90s to be welcomed in certain parts of the country. And they should recognize the new Afghanistan, and the new Afghanistan is sophisticated, it is educated, it has seen freedom, it has seen freedom of expression, it has seen exposure to the global values, and dominating this society for the Taliban will be next to impossible. So the society knows that they are the rejectionists. We are not the rejectionists. It's a very odd situation. Throughout the history, insurgencies erupt when sitting governments reject elections. This is the first time in history that a sitting government proposes democratic integration, proposes mainstreaming of an insurgent group and offering them to take part in the elections, but they reject. The reason they reject, they understand the time for religious militancy to dominate a society is over, and they will not win any election. Even if they participate in the election, I am confident they will not win more than 5 to 10% of the vote at best. So that is fear. They are feared. And my question is, why all of us, and particularly our Western allies, representing a magnificent civilization, should show docility and compromise and unprecedented softness to a group which does not enjoy more than 4 to 8% of popularity in Afghanistan? Of course, they are setting the agenda today because they are able to unleash massive violence and do massacre of the civilians. But again, we are prepared to do ceasefire. We have shown enormous patience. We have shown enormous restraint. We have not allowed our forces to this date to initiate attacks, to be provocative. We have tolerated so much pain. We have taken so much casualties for the hope that the Taliban will realize and their allies will push them for a meaningful dialogue. That meaningful dialogue has not started. Well, the Taliban interpretation of the Quranic verses is absolutely misinterpretation, and to a lot of extent it's false. Their interpretation of the word jihad is false because they take it out of context. In the Quran, jihad has been used many dozen times, and the Taliban only take those few instances where this word has been used for military movement. They ignore the other 38 or so many times the word jihad has been used for non-violent struggles and efforts in human societies. The word jihad as a software has been downloaded on the Taliban by the Pakistani madrasas. A few days back, one of the very well-known clerics in Pakistan with very close ties and links to the Pakistani establishment, he issued a fatwa calling on the Afghan state to surrender to the Taliban, and his interpretation of the Doha Agreement is in par with the Taliban say to their fighters, that the United States is defeated and therefore rest of Afghanistan must surrender. Today, the biggest challenge ahead of the peace process is the Taliban interpretation of the Doha Agreement. They have gained unnecessary elevation. They have gained undue legitimacy. They have been inflated. Deflating them is a challenge. We need to work together to bring them down to their reality. And once they are down to their reality, then negotiations will be meaningful. Now, there are other challenges and problems in my country, and I would like to focus a little bit on those challenges. One of those challenges is the aid effectiveness. The narrative of the international community is, as if for 19 years there was a rain of dollars and cash over the Afghan population and we have misused it. Absolutely, that's not the case. We did a study, and particularly my office did a study based on facts and figures collected from NGOs, government institutions, private sector. At the best, we, the government of Afghanistan, get less than 40% of the aid. The other more than 60% goes to the facilitating partners and NGOs. We have no or minimum oversight over them, and they are not under any pressure to be accountable. So we have to make it clear, when we speak of accountability, when we speak of combating corruption, we are forgetting a bigger chunk of the economy which is not in the control of the Afghan state. But that is not an excuse for us to be slow on combating corruption. We have started distributing ID cards to the entire personnel of the Afghan government. The process is going very, very fast. We have almost brought to zero ghost employees in the Afghan state. The president of Afghanistan formally created the Anti-Corruption Independent Commission, who were selected both by the United Nations, civil society organizations, and an Afghan government. We also understand there is fatigueness. We are all fatigued. It's not the donor fatigue only. We are also fatigued. But I would like to tell our international friends, we are not the cause of your fatigue. We are your partners. The cause of our fatigue and your fatigue is the Quetta Shura. Let's not punch the wrong spots. Let us punch the right spot. Those who have caused the fatigueness to you, to us, and to the whole system is called Quetta Shura. They are the people who destroy infrastructure. They are the people who have forced us to be consumed by countering violence and managing the war. But we have resorted to austerity. Very sincerely, we have resorted to austerity. We are doing more with much, much less. Let me give you an example which I did myself. We used to launch the Premier League, the football Premier League in Afghanistan, with $3.5 million before. This year, we did it with less than $400,000. We are awakening to our reality. And our reality is we are a least developed country. We are a poor country. The Afghan expectations were raised unrealistically over the years. Sometimes back, we went to a province where the people stood up and they listed 38 demands, totaling around $10 billion for one province. I said, you asked for everything except one. You didn't ask us to build you a ladder to the moon, because that type of the situation was created by influx of NGOs in my country, and we are now dealing with the consequences of it. So we are tapping our own potentials. We are investing in water. We are investing in extractive industries. For the first time in history of Afghanistan, we signed the largest memorandum of understanding with the largest energy company, Fortescue, Australian. They are going to start a 20,000 megawatt power project in Afghanistan, and very soon they are going to take more or less 120 Afghans to pursue their PhD studies in engineering in Australia. We managed the COVID very well. When I first gave an interview how we were going to strategize our COVID response, We were mocked, but we were proven right. We managed it. We had minimum casualties compared to advanced societies. We kept the prices stable, and it all came from our best relations with some of our neighbors. It came. We managed it because we had relied, and we are relying on regional connectivity for economic stability of Afghanistan. And we are now hit by the second wave of COVID. The situation is not as dire and severe as the first wave, but you didn't see food riots. You didn't see people dying outside of hospitals. You didn't see people crying of no access to medicine. It means there is a functioning administration. We were in the lead in responding to COVID, thanks to President Ashraf Ghani's wisdom, leadership. His trajectory came through line by line, and it was very meticulous. We managed to do a lot of reallocation within our budget, and we sailed through that turbulence safely. That capacity is not at times being appreciated. While keeping the Taliban at bay, managing the COVID, but at the same time working with 26 stratas in the Afghan society, in the meantime delivering services, which means the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan is not a title. It is an icon representing functionality, effectiveness, management, and administration. So at the end, I have a message for three of my audiences. To the Afghan people, I am saying the world has changed. The environment has changed. We have to work very hard. We have to invest in our own potentials. We have to strengthen our own confidence. We have to rely on our roots. We have to rely on our indigenous values. We have to realize that we are not under the spotlight of the international community as we were in 2002 to 2014. And this is not a slogan. In our daily practices, we work closely with our people to minimize costs, to stay away from extravagance and luxury, and do much more with much less. We are doing it, and that has a direct impact on the security situation, because we are also implementing austerity measures in our security forces. And I don't want to go into the details of how, due to time and allowing other speakers to make their speeches. And to the region, we have great friends in the region. Our northern neighbors are our friends. India is our friend. We have excellent relationship with China. We have an expanded relationship with Iran. We wish to have the best of relationship with Pakistan, but the choice is with Pakistan. It's not with us. We want to turn Afghanistan into a corridor of energy, into a corridor of connectivity, into a corridor of relationship between Central Asia and Pakistan. Unfortunately, trade with Pakistan has declined almost by 70%. Because of the complications at the Karachi port, and because of the so many caveats and restrictions attached to the APTA, Afghan-Pakistan transit agreement. We once again call on the state of Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, to facilitate trade, to open up further, and to be not only one of our largest neighbors, but our best trade partners. We also call on them to try and test the beauty, the sweetness, and the fruition of a state-to-state relationship, and stay away from proxy domination. We all know they support the Taliban, and we call them to once in their history befriend the Afghan people instead of befriending a violent fanatic group. With the region, my other message is engaging Afghanistan is much effective. It's more viable than containing Afghanistan. Containing Afghanistan will be very costly and it will be very dangerous. And we are very glad to say today the region is engaging us. We have established air corridors, we have established trade links, we have established people-to-people relationship, and our friends from the region are standing on our side. Central Asia is on our side, India is on our side, China is working very closely with us. Our trade with Iran, with Turkey has gone up. A few Turkish firms are investing in Afghanistan, particularly in the sector of energy. So the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan is an ally, it's a friend, and it's an effective partner with countries of the region. I would like to see myself speaking with the same tune and with the same level of praise when it comes to our relationship with Pakistan. But as I said, the ball is not in our court. To our international allies, we are very grateful. Thank you very much. You don't owe us any dollar or any euro. We appreciate your generosity. You have been very kind. But you are talking of fatigueness. We are also fatigued. We are also digging graves. We are also smelling blood. Please do not forget that this sacrifice is not because of Afghanistan alone. Please do not say that you are running out of patience because there is no progress in 2 months. We have been your allies. We have given so much sacrifice. We are still giving so much sacrifice. We are not the cause of your fatigueness. The cause of your fatigueness is religious extremism, terrorism, fanaticism, and this violence unleashed by Quetta Shura. It is not by Kabul. So therefore, we would like a very respectful treatment of Kabul as the capital of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, which is managing this important, crucial, and historic alliance with the countries of the globe. Once again, Dr. Muradian, I congratulate you. I congratulate your co-organizers, Dr. Hossain Haqqani, our friends from India, Dr. Chenoy and Dr. Aparnath Pandey for organizing this dialogue and conference at a very crucial time. I wish you best of luck in your deliberations and in your discussions. We will prevail, and you will prevail, and I'm very sure that there will be Herat security conference and dialogue focusing on development next year, the years after that. Good evening to all of you. Enjoy your time. Goodbye.